Just give me a second while I figure this out. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is about thinking long term, and I know the title said a year, but I'm going to try to get you to think a year and sometimes even longer than that, because I'd like to ask a question to start off with. How many of you have set a fitness goal or a health goal or a fat loss goal in the last 3 to 4 years? Let's not even go 10, 20, 30 years. Last 3 to 4 years, you've set a goal and you've not hit it, or maybe you hit it or you got close to it but are not there today. Yeah, I don't need even a show of hands, folks. I just need you to be honest to yourself and answer it. Anybody who's done this, you don't need this, okay? Please log off right now. I am serious. This is not meant to be a joke. If you know how to do this, you're sorted, okay? I'm not sure what you're here for, but you already have the answer in your head. Go away, go watch TV or eat ice cream or do something more fun. The rest of us, we're here because of this, right? We set a goal, we get close to it, then something happens. So the first learning or lesson I'd like you to walk away with. Oh, somebody actually logged off. Jovi, Anish, please note down. I want to know who this person is. I think it's a great great thing to learn from. So expect it. Okay. Now I will tie this again later, but learn to expect this. Losing your way happens. You already know it. Blindly believing you did something wrong and this time it won't happen. 1, it's silly. 2, it's not true. Losing your way is not wrong. Okay. If all our variables were isolated and there's only one thing we are looking at, great. But life's not that straightforward. We can't plan for everything, but we can plan for things screwing up. And once we plan for things screwing up, you have the power. You figure out what to do when things go wrong. That's what I mean, okay? And we will, this is, if you walk away in the first 15 minutes, I want you to walk away with this. And I'm also going to start out with a solution. Again, this is a solution. There are hundreds of ways to skin this solution. I'm going to start with this. And this is what I'm going to explain again at the end. I'm going to walk you through this. So the grand solution is this, okay? Over a year, make a chunk where you do 100% nutrition only, okay? We're not going to talk about fitness or strength training or lifting weights and all that. 4 4-week chunks of you being at 100%, whatever 100% means to you. My 100% will be, let's just say, will be a lot stricter than your 100%, and that's okay. This is not an absolute 100% where all of us are not eating sugar, not eating junk. You know what I mean? So whatever your 100% today is, and in a year your 100% will change, which is awesome. Okay, but anyway, 4 4-week chunks of 100%, and then 4 1-week chunks of vacation. Whether you actually take a vacation or not, It's a vacation from you worrying about eating. Now, this does not mean you order 1 or 2 pints of ice cream a day and, you know, I'm going to spend the first 12 hours drinking beer and the second 12 hours eating ice cream. It sounds like a fun vacation, but you know what I mean, okay? We'll just call it vacation. Again, my vacation might be different from your vacation, just like my 100% different from your 100%. Not judging here at all, okay? That's something I've done, by the way, but it's, yeah, anyway, moving on. Let's not get that. Then what remains is 32 weeks. And I want you to think of them as 32 one-week chunks of 80%. Okay? Or you can think of them as 8 4-week chunks of 80%. We will see. Like I said, there's many ways to skin this solution. Now, what does this mean? 100% is the simplest. It's simple in that there is no confusion or lack of clarity as to what 100% means. Eat your vegetables. The principles stay the same, but you are trying to do them at the best of your limits. So let's just make sure we are all clear about what this means, right? Let's just call it as I'm going to eat 3 cups of vegetables every day. I'm going to make sure I eat some protein in my meals every day. I'm going to make sure I train 3 days a week or 5 days a week or walk 7 days a week. I know I said I wouldn't get into fitness, but drinking water, not eating sugar, not eating junk, you know the drill. 100% is simple. It's simple to understand, right? Even 10-year-olds know it. Eat like an adult, 100% of the time. And we're talking about a 4-week chunk only. And it's very doable. You've all done it, right? Is there anybody who's never done this? I'll fail here. I don't think so. Okay? So this is done. Simple. The vacation, well, vacations should be easy. I shouldn't have to tell you. I don't know how somebody's drawing on my screen, but okay, that's interesting. Anyway, vacation should be easy. And the reason I say sometimes it's not is because, well, can I do this on vacation? Yes. Whatever it is, it's your vacation. Do it. Okay? So, vacation, easy. But, and here is our second learning for today. The majority of the year, 32 weeks, is spent at 80%. And we need to find our 80%. And this is where we all go wrong. Because we're good with the 100%, we're good with the vacation, but the other, let's just call it 32 weeks, we are mindless. We lose our way. We start with a plan, and when the plan is I'm not going to eat sugar or I'm going to do this full on, it's easy to do. But the moment we allow ourselves some slack, we don't know the difference between some slack and a lot of slack. So finding our 80% is crucial to our long-term nutrition. Okay? And I will walk through details about what this means. Again, like I said, anytime you have questions, just pause and go for it. Now, the first section, we need to find out where we are. Okay? I'm going to call this point A. Unless you know where you are, there isn't any possibility to talk about where we are going, where we've gone so far. So, let's find our point A. Folks, some of us are just joining us. If you're just joining us, this is the practical section. Now, it might be useful to take notes, but It's not those kind of notes. This has to end with you doing something about it. You listening here will not result in you taking a step towards your goals. You listening here and doing something about it, and this starts with, this is the first thing to do, finding point A. And I'm going to propose a method which a lot of us are familiar with. Maybe you've done it, maybe you've not done it. Calorie counting. Okay. Now, yes, at the quad, we don't calorie count, but it is a tool to use. It's not a good tool to do year-long or even for a month, but it is a great tool to figure out point A, or where things stand, or what you are currently doing today. Now, calorie counting is approximate, but that's okay. Your calorie expenditure is also approximate, and approximate will cancel each other out. This is more to do with you really understanding what you are doing on a day-to-day basis. So there are a bunch of apps. I think Healthify Me does this. I use something called Chronometer, CRONO. And for the next week, or maybe you can even start today, 7 days, Saturday to Friday or Sunday to Saturday, you're going to log all your eating over there. Okay, it's a little tedious, it's a little annoying, it's imprecise, because it's, well, how do you know exactly what went in? But it will allow, or rather it will force you to think about your food. Okay, so 1 week, 1 day is useless. You want to average things out over a week, and don't try to clean things up. Just do what you're doing. Okay, be honest. If you clean it up, then you're getting useless data. This is not what you're doing today. This is what you're doing when somebody is watching you and you're feeling guilty. Now, when the school principal walks away or the class teacher walks away, what you do, that's more important than otherwise. So, calorie count for a week. And there are a lot of websites out there. They'll tell you what you should be eating. Okay, how many calories you should be eating. Now, remember, don't take this too seriously. It's a ballpark. For example, for my activity level, my height, my weight, my gender, my age, let's say it says I should be eating 2000 calories. Okay. And over this week, let's say I find that I'm eating 2300 calories. So that's a surplus of 300. It's not much. 300 is a slice of cake, or a samosa is about 250 calories. Yeah, it's not much. Okay. Now, 300 calories over a year, or one samosa extra above what your limit is over a year, adds up to about 18 to 20 kilos of fat. Okay, 365 into 300 is about 10,000 or 108,000, and each kilo of fat is about 7,700. Anyway, yeah, my math's more or less there. Okay, let's call it 15 kilos for one samosa extra a day. And this is why it's important for us to look at what our energy requirement is. And what Chronometer will also do for you is, well, it'll give you a macronutrient split, blah, blah, blah. It's just a good thing to know, folks. It's not something to worry about. It's something to start off with. 1 week, count your calories, and also have a baseline as what it should say. So basically, my 2000 versus 2300. And then you obviously need to take measurements. So weight, height, height all doesn't change, but obviously weight, waist, hip, chest, thigh. Just keep that. You need to know what the trend is. This is not going to be a linear solution over the year or the next 3 years. But you want to see, okay, am I going more or less in the right way? There will be times when we go back down, and that's okay. And your measurements will tell you the full picture. So depending on how obsessive you are, weekly, twice a month, once a month, take measurements. Okay. If you're obsessive, I would say twice a month is enough. Weekly might get to you. If you are forgetful like me, put it on your calendar. Okay. I put it on my calendar so that every other Sunday I actually get to doing it. If you don't want a calorie count, or for whatever reason, the other way to go about it is a food journal, but it's much more qualitative to try and understand what goes on there. But it's still ample because it's you eating, and you can figure it out. So we won't go by numbers here, but you are going to have to figure out trends, which is on days where you worked a lot, you ate 7 rasagullas at dinner. On days where you slept early, you ate 1 rasagulla. Oh, amazing, right? I need to sleep better. Or the day I'm working, I need to text my wife or husband or son or daughter and tell them to take those rasagullas before I finish my work. Any of these solutions work, but it's you figuring out what you're doing. My suggestion, stick to the calorie counting, okay? As long as you understand it's for that 1 week, and it's for you to understand what point A is. So your current measurement and your current way of eating, and then we park it, we leave it away. We have a ballpark. We know what we need to do, okay? We are going to come back to this much later after this, because now we need to figure out where we're going. So we'll find what point B, which is our short-term goal is, and one point Z, which is our long-term goal is. Okay, so and this is individual. I would love it if you guys spend time working on this right now, or better yet, maybe scheduling some time tomorrow. Because remember, those of you who are going to be successful with this are the people who are going to do something about it. So put it on your calendar for tomorrow and for the next week. Say, calorie count for 1 week, and for tomorrow I'm going to find out what my goals are. Or if you are pumped, you do it right after this. So it starts off with you figuring out a goal. Goal will generally be one of these 4 things: fat loss, maintenance, muscle gain, or health. It's important that you pick one. Again, it might seem like I'm contradicting what we preach at the Quad, which is fat loss is a side effect of good health. But let's say you pick health, but you're constantly worrying about your waist size. You're measuring the side effect and not the main thing. So you need to learn to know what to measure, and you will learn to know what to measure only if you believe and agree with yourself what the main goal is. So don't tell me health when you really want fat loss. There's nothing wrong with a goal, whether it's aesthetics or health. I don't care how my measurements are, but I care how my blood markers are. Whatever works for you. And again, it comes from you understanding where you are starting, and it's also important to understand that this is not the goal for the rest of your life or even the rest of this journey. this year or the next 3 years. Okay? Things will change. You can break things down into chunks, which is, say, during those four-week sections, right? Your goal might be fat loss or muscle gain. Those 4 weeks, I'm going to do everything under my control and be at 100%. Now the 80%, maintenance or health, where we change our goals. So we change what we are measuring and looking at as well, and not worrying about this. Does that make sense? Okay. But it is important you keep one goal at a time. So your long-term goal and your short-term goal, they will dovetail with each other. So I'm going to give you 2-3 minutes at least, and if you can't do it in the 2-3 minutes, you will do it right after. What is your point Z? This is your long-term goal. Now, this is not me at 75 years old, but a big goal. This would be a great mountain to be on top of. This is not the only mountain you're going to climb, but if you are going to take the next year or next 3 years. Okay, I'll give you an example. I don't have any fat loss goals. It's easy for me to use fitness as an example and also to just break from talking about nutrition all the time. But let's say I want to squat 232s as my goal. That's my body weight. My body weight is going to stay about the same. So I want to squat this much. Now, when I get there, it's not that I'm going to reframe the goal to say, okay, now I'm squatting 232s. I'm going to squat 240s next. It might not be that way. Most often it is never that way. Okay. Once I go there, I might choose to do something else. I might say, now I'm going to go play ultimate. So in nutrition, how that would translate as is, might start off as saying, I want to lose 10 kilos. Once we lose 10 kilos, we might not want to lose 10 more kilos because our identity would have changed. Our thought process would have changed. So you might think, now I want to go on a, say, hike up Annapurna. Something that was previously inaccessible to me. But now that I'm here, it's going to change a whole lot of things about what you think you can do and what you can actually do, and the world will open up. But it is a significant big step. Like, that's why I'm calling it point Z. This is a big place. This is not in the next 3 months. So a year, or if you put your hand up in the beginning, for 3-4 years, I've had goals, but I have not hit them. What is a good goal you would be happy with, or what is a place you'd be happy with in 3 years from now? Okay, 2 minutes. Think about it. One goal. Can be write down one thing or all right. For health, I'm going to push my goal onto you. Oh, waist to height ratio of less than 0.5 is a great point Z goal. Okay. That is, I am 166 centimeters tall. My waist should be lesser than 83. Now, it's not a magical number where if I'm at 82, I am healthy, and I'm at 84, I'm unhealthy. There's a whole lot of data that talks about how when we are able to be here, the other lifestyle diseases we generally, are afflicted with in this day and age, the probability of it afflicting us are rather less significant. Like it drops steeply. But at a waist to height ratio of greater than 0.5, the probability increases. So this is a good long-termish goal. This is not an aesthetic goal. This is a health goal. Now, you have your point Z. Before we go, trying to find out point D, I'm going to show you two possible paths. Okay? Let's take this guy. This guy is about 170 centimeters tall. That's about 5'8", 5'7". His goal is fat loss. Weighs 90 kilos. And his waist is 90 centimeters. Now he needs to be 85 centimeters or lesser for the waist to height ratio I brought up. Now, in the first scenario, he does something which most of us are familiar with. Earlier this year in March or in Jan, he starts off saying, last year, 2020, my bad. Last year, Jan, he starts off with fat loss at 100%. And he finishes the year losing almost 10%, which is possible. We've seen it, but it's definitely on the higher side. And there's no right or wrong here, okay? So he's at 82 and 80. And then we find the familiar picture, which is December, let's call it the day after Christmas. We weigh him, poor fellow. But we barge into this house and we weigh him, and well, whatever it was on Jan 1st, he's back there. But especially because of that, he starts Jan 2020 with gusto. March 2020, again, very reasonable progress. He's at 84 and 82. And if you can see, his waist to height ratio is checked. But today, or when we barge into his house 2 months from now, he's going to be at 90 and 90. In fact, things are worse than this normally. What we've seen, most people steadily every year finish it a little worse off than the previous year. Think about it. That's why we're all here, right? If every year we did a little better, we wouldn't really be so worried about why things are not moving forward. It gets worse and worse every year. So in this example, I've said he's back at 90 and 90, but we've seen examples where people are at 95 and 95. So we are here because I'm proposing we look at the other story. Finishes March 2019 in the same place, but if we can find our 80% between March 2019 and December 2019, and we also figure out how to use our 2 4-week chunks or 1 4-week chunk of 100%, and we end the year at 85 and 85. Guys, these are just random examples, okay? At 85 and 85. Now, you can think, I was 82 in March and I'm 85 today. It's a sucky year. No, it's not. You started at 90, you finished at 85. It's a great year. So, your starting off point for Jan 2020 is better off than Jan 2019. And you're going to finish March 2020 at say 78 and 78. And you can compare it to the image on the left. And then we finish December at 81 and 83, let's say. Now, short-sighted us, we might look at, I almost did this or even better in March 2020, March 2019, I mean, in the previous example, just left on the first thing. I've taken 2 years to get that. This is a silly idea, but I want to have you take 2 minutes and think about this. If this is a silly idea, then why are we in a better place at December 2020 and starting off Jan 2021 and losing all the progress in the first scenario? So most of us tend to be in the first scenario. We move forward and then we're like, oh, I don't know what happened. Life got in the way, blah, 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 and I'm in the same place. Rinse and repeat. So this is the way I am proposing. And this requires you to be, I guess, courageous about how we are going to do this. You're going to look at it with a much longer term vision and not a short term vision. You're going to say, look at March 2019 versus December 2019. I did put on 3 kilos. I did put on 5 centimeters, but that's okay because I am better off than the 90 I started with. And this is why I mean trends are more important than absolute numbers. So we'll say the first scenario is simply 90, 82, 90, 84, 90. The second scenario, 90, 82, 85, 78, 81, 76. So you can see it's up and down, but the trend is slowly downwards. And what I'm going to have you do, okay, before we get there, now it's important to realize point B, that is your 3-month target, 6-month target is not your 3-year target. Even though in this March 2019 and March on the left and December 2020 on the right seem about close, they're not the same. Number wise they might be close, but the goal is numbers and timeline. And so it's important for you to understand point B is not point Z. Equally important, point Z is not point B. Get to point Z from point A over the next 3 years. This is my third learning or third suggestion for today. What you are going to do at the end of this session, like this up-down chart, okay, if you're measuring measurements, well, that's what I use there. You're going to see at the 3-year mark, this is where I want to be, point Z. Today I'm here, and then we're going to chart all of this, and it's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be up and down, but we're going to figure out how to keep that moving always kind of sort of towards our point Z. So for us to be able to do this, I'm just going to walk through certain things that derail us. Folks, sorry, maybe before that, any questions so far? I'll give it a minute. Use some water. Fascinating questions. We'll move on. Things that, okay, so either I'm extremely lucid and amazingly clear. I wish we're all too shy. So we'll leave it as a combo of both and talk about things that derail us. Vacations. Now, I did say vacations are easy. but sometimes vacations derail us. And I'm going to use me as an example only because it's safe, folks. I don't have to worry about offending anybody. It's me. I'm talking about me. How can you be offended with my examples? Or at least I hope. So the first, a few years ago, but wow, it's been a while. Anyway, so I took a vacation where, you know, we took a longish vacation, 2 weeks. And that was after, you know, 2 or 3 years of intense work, starting off the quad, and it was my first big vacation. And I put on 5 kilos. Now, 5 kilos for somebody on the tinier side like me is a lot. And that ironing that out took me a while, but it was more about, it's not about the kilos themselves. It's about how, you know, a 2 week chunk where I really went off the charts derailed me. And I had to come up with a plan to figure out what to do on vacation. So I have a very simple plan for vacations. I don't worry about what I eat, but sleep on a vacation should never be under doubt. Or let's say getting protein on a vacation, whatever is easy for you, or eating vegetables on a vacation. Don't worry about, oh, I'm not going to eat ice cream on a vacation. Oh, what kind of sad vacation is that? Right? But figure out, we don't go from 100 to 0. There are still easy things that you do that other people can't do. For example, for some of us, it's easy to stay away from alcohol. For some of us, it's easy to stay away from chocolate. Figure out what that easy part is and do those things on your vacation. Sleep is a given. You can't not sleep on vacation, right? So vacations do derail us. So having a simple plan for your vacations is useful. Stress, obviously, stress derails us. Lack of sleep combined with the stress, or, you know, work stress, whatever it is, or dicking around on Netflix or whatever, way past your bedtime, well, that derails us, because what stress and sleep do, they create cravings. Cravings are generally, there's 2 ways to look at it. One is because of our bad routines. A sugar craving most times is lack of nutrients or lack of sleep. Okay? And when we fix these, the cravings go down. They don't go away, but they do go down. And it's much, much harder to say no 100 times than to say no 10 times, or to say no 9 times out of 10. So how do you figure these things out? It's never just that one thing. Oh, I had a sugar craving today and I gave into it. No, why did it come up? Those are things we need to understand. And then there's mindless eating. And it is different from the rest of it, because let's say you have a busy day and you're just walking around the kitchen, or open your refrigerator, pop a few nuts in, and you go away. No reason. You're just bored. Not really hungry. You had a good meal. And then you go in, and then it's, yeah, some more peanuts, or one Hershey's Kisses, whatever it is. And you might say, oh, I know enough to stay away from, say, Hershey's, because it's chocolate. But come on, peanuts or a few almonds, what can it do? Go back to, you know, the 300 calorie example, or let's call it 50 calories. Again, I'm using calories because it's a very useful number to go off of for mathematical purposes. It's obviously a lot more complex. Let's call it 100 calories a day, right? Which is 10 almonds or whatever you're eating without realizing. 100 calories a day over a year, well, that's going to add up to about 4.5, 5 kilos. Everything else being equal. So this mindless eating, where we're really mindless, well, derails us. And all of this can be sorted, but we lose out because we don't have a plan. And we need a plan, and it's never one plan. It's a bunch of plans. What am I going to do? That's why I broke it down into weeks in the beginning. So you do need a plan. And it's not a nutrition plan or this is what my dietitian gave me, I need to follow it. I mean it in a slightly more abstract sense of the word, and you're going to arrive at your own plan. Okay? And another thing that derails us is confusing these two. So I'm hoping after our conversation today, you at least learn to differentiate significantly between your next goal and your, say, 1 year or 3 year goal. I'm going to call it 3 year goal. And here's the last thing, I think. Yes. Expecting things to be static. Your 80% is not going to be static. What I mean by this is, let's say as part of my 80%, I'm going to eat eggs daily. It's simple. I love eating eggs and I do it. But I know there is a time when I get bored of eating eggs. There's a month or two in the year where I avoid eggs because I'm just done with it. I still need to find out what 80% means. Like what am I replacing my eating eggs with? Or I might be sleeping better at this point of time. I might be sleeping worse at this point of time. But when sleep goes down, something else has to compensate. And this is how even a week is made up of. That is, I don't need to eat 3 cups of vegetables every day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. I could eat 4 cups of vegetables 5 days a week and nothing 2 days of the week. I don't mean it to be so rigid. All I'm telling you is things will fluctuate. A day, sure, you're trying to get as close to a perfect day as possible, but there is no such thing as a perfect day. But over a week, you've gotten more or less. But it's hard to have a perfect week also. But you're about there. But when we zoom out to a month, yeah, you've more or less done that. I recommend for now we zoom out a little, which is why again I've broken things down into 1 week chunks. Over the course of this week, did I stay in the ballpark? As opposed to for today, did I stay in the ballpark? Because if we get something wrong today, we tend to beat ourselves up. You still have the rest of the week to rectify your mistake, whatever you think that was. So figuring out our 80% and figuring out 80% for January might be different from May, say summer, you don't feel like eating much, or it's not possible to go walking outside, whatever it is, it changes. Don't expect things to be static. And even in the long term, today you think point Z, your 3 year goal is your 3 year goal and only that matters. But when we start making forward progress towards our goal, okay, whatever the middle letter in the alphabet is, let's just call it O, okay, whenever we're there, you might start to see the world differently. What was previously the holy grail might not be it, because you might change it up saying, I want to go do this hike. I'm not interested in, fat loss anymore. I am in a great place physically and mentally, and I want to go do something else. And that's okay. But at the same time, chopping and changing things randomly every week. Oh, last week I wanted 10 kilos fat loss. This week I want this. Yeah. That's counterproductive. So think long term. Don't expect things to be static. And the most important homework for you, and this is why I would like you to allocate some time in your calendar today or tomorrow, is learning from yourself. Because you've tried this before. You've done this before. You've done some successful bits before, and you've also derailed yourself before multiple times. Those are all lessons to learn from. So write down what worked. And each time something different might have worked. So what did work? Okay. And again, I'm going to simply stick to using me as an example. I'm hoping you can take the lesson from it and not the precise actions from it. So on vacation, after I put on my 5 kilos in 2 weeks, the next vacation I plan to go to, just looking at my day, what I did, obviously, I'm going to sleep significantly. One. Second thing, I would walk 8 kilometers a day. Okay. Now, this is not me waking up in the morning before vacation and just walking around mindlessly, but planning the vacation in such a way so that it is conducive to walking. Like everything we are going to do here is going to involve walking. Any touristy stuff, whatever it is, right? So walking 8 kilometers every day. I fasted every morning. Why? Because the previous vacation, every morning, me and my wife would wake up and have a chocolate croissant. Now, she might be disciplined about things. For me, when the day starts with chocolate, the day continues to fuel itself on chocolate. So that was my learning from my first vacation. Okay, there's enough chocolate croissants in the world. It's okay if I don't eat it at 8 in the morning. I can eat it at 1 in the afternoon or 9 in the evening. So fasting in the morning. And I trained every day. That was because I had a cert at the end of it, so I needed to keep my performance up. It wasn't a long drawn session. It was 15-20 minutes. And so I bought a kettlebell on my vacation. Now, these are things that I learned after making a mistake, but this is a great framework that works for me. I've tested it in multiple vacations after, works like a charm. So I know my plan. So I know what worked. I know what did not work. And again, this is one instance. And every year I come up with new ways to shoot myself in the foot. And I learned from it. And it changes. Like I said, you can't expect things to be static. So what derailed you last time? Have a plan for it. So you're going to take a significant amount of time thinking about these things. If you don't, if you just say, forget all of it, I'm just going to start again. No, you will come up short again and again and again unless you spend time thinking. So a lot of these things leading to the action plan that I'd like you to do, and it's maybe not necessary to do all of it, but a good chunk of them. Finding your starting point, finding point A, calorie counting and or food journal measurements for a week, starting today or starting tomorrow, and then having a plan about when periodically you're going to measure. Now, what you measure depends on your goals. And you might have a fat loss goal for 3 months, and then you might have a maintenance goal for 6 months, and you might have a health goal for 3 months, in which case it's just simpler to measure all of them. And what I mean by all of them is you will always measure your waist, chest, thigh. During your fat loss goal, you will measure them every week. But regardless of the goal, you'll measure them at least every month. Even if it is a health goal, it's just something you log in and you put in there. You don't obsess over it because don't measure the side effect. You measure the main thing. So whatever your primary goal is, you measure that primary goal in that phase every month, or rather every week. But the other things you always measure. So for me, that would be, I like measuring my strength. So I'm going to measure my strength every month. I'm going to measure my measurements every month. I'm going to measure my blood markers every 3 months, because measuring them every week doesn't make sense, or even every month doesn't make sense. Okay, now this works for me. But in a fat loss goal, I might say rest being the same, but I'm going to measure my waist every week. Okay, so things will change, but make sure you're measuring the full picture. And then you already have written down your point Z. It should excite you. It should be a place where you genuinely think things will be different. And I'm going to have you sleep on it tonight and think about it tomorrow morning. If you woke up at point Z, how would your life be different? Will it truly be different? Or is it still a little short-sighted? Do you want to expand the goal? Do you want to make it more qualitative? It's your goal. Like I said, no judgment, but think about it. And it's okay if I am confusing you and you don't want to be confused. Like I said, 1.5 years in, you might be in a much better place where you understand yourself more and you will tweak your own goal. And then we're going to backtrack today. Okay, so we put point Z at, let's just call it December 2023. And you're going to chart a few points along the way. Now, it does not have to be very precise, but along the way, just spots. How do you break it down over 3 years? Or if 3 years is too disinteresting a timeline, 1 year. Again, I'm going to go back to that case study or that example I gave you. And that example, while I made it up, I have seen hundreds of stories parallelly like those. Okay, so I'm not randomly making it up. So there is value to that example. And again, we started off by asking ourselves, have we made progress over the last 3 years? Or are we more or less around the same place? We make progress and we come back. And it's because we agree on that we're trying to expand things. So for 2021, what is your point B? What is your point C? What is your point D? What is your goal? And how are you going to do this? And the most important thing as part of every goal is finding your 80%. What does that 80% mean? And as your 100% elevates, your 80% will elevate also, and it will change as well. What is that 80%? So sometimes you might be great on sleep. Sometimes it might be lesser on sleep. So this month, I have too much work. I'm not going to sleep enough. You got to compensate by that by doing something else better. And that's what I mean by 80%. It is fluid measure. Already discussed this. And yeah, expect to screw up and expect to get back up. Every failure is a failure only if you stop there. Instead, you learn, you write down your learning, and you don't let that thing happen to you next time. Something else will. So it's up to you to decide if you're going to whine for a day or whine for a week or whine for a year and start this again next year. Change is the only constant. Let's move on. So I do want to reiterate, if whining solve problems, I would hold a whining class every morning. Okay, whining doesn't solve problems, so move on. So to sum it up, this is a solution I'm proposing. If you're not sure what to do, I recommend you look at your year this way. The four-week chunks at 100%. What are good months for you? When do you think you'll be able to do this? Now, Jan's obvious, right? So let's just say Jan 15th to Feb 15th or Jan 15th to March 15th, we are going to do our 2 4-week chunks. And let's say summer vacation, right after summer vacation, you have time or work is not crazy then. Slot a 4-week chunk in there. And let's say I always go crazy over December break, previous learnings. So let's say November 15 to December 15, I will slot my last 4-week chunk. Vacations are whenever, so it's a 1-week slot anyways. And then we have the rest of it at 80%, and this is the hard part. This is the part we assume is easy. This is the part we really need to focus the most on. And a few ways of this. One more thing that comes to mind about this 80% is I'll be at 100% 5 days of the week or 5.5 days of the week, and I will chill a lot more 1.5 days of the week, or Monday to Friday and say Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon I'll be on point. Saturday night and Sunday night I'm not going to bother. I'm going to drink all I can. Sure, see if that works. Is that your 80%? That's the key. And how do you know it's your 80%? Well, if you do this and mentally it feels great, but let's call it a fat loss goal. It's the simplest to explain. But your weight goes up. Well, you're having a little too much fun. So you need to control that. So that's not your 80%. You need to, 80% is a place where mentally you can keep going and you're not derailing yourself. Now remember, you are allowed to put on some weight. Expect it. But we don't want to go back up to where we started. So what is the part where we hover a little up and down? That's your 80%. Okay, so planning this out, easier said than done, but this is how I think we should go about it. So that I am done. Oh wow, pretty reasonably on time. I am stunned with myself. On my website over there, if you look at, I recommend these 3 posts. You can just maybe use the Google on calorie counting, on cravings, and yeah, if you can just type that out, you should get there. Otherwise, I'm going to open it up to questions, folks. And if you don't have any questions, it's a Saturday, go away, do something fun. Okay, I'm going to start with Sheetal. 1 second, Bharat. Can the vacation be intermittent, say 1 day in a week, like festival days? Yes, of course. And remember, even in the, that's a great question. Okay, let me clarify. Even in our 80%, we can do this. If 6 days of the week you are on point, your 80% week is made up of 600% days, and one, I'm not even going to quantify this day, I'm going to eat that much, I don't know, chakra pongal during pongal, whatever it is, whatever strikes you, that's fine. This is why the constant measurements and following the trends and being okay with, oh, I put on some weight. No, that's not a cause for alarm. You see the trend and then see if it is a cause for alarm. So when I say 1 week vacation, I do mean something else, because I think 1 day a week is already part of the plan. That's the plan for 32 weeks. Now it's only a problem if Wednesday night we meet our friends for beer, Friday night we have ice cream, and then Saturday it is festival day, I have to eat yala sapadu with my entire family, and Sunday I did not get to eat biryani because I had to eat yala sapadu yesterday. Now this is a vacation. You're just not calling it a vacation, but that's a vacation. So as long as you can differentiate, you're good. Yeah, Bharat. Can't hear you, Bharat. You did unmute, but I can't hear you. All right, we'll let Bharat figure it out. Ravi, what are the ways you dealt with sleep issues? Oh, Vani. Hi, Vani. And any tips to try to get better sleep? A few things. Sleeping is about, most things are about having the discipline to stick to a routine. So TV or devices right before you sleep seems to impair most people. I personally read on my Kindle before I sleep. I've done this for many, many years, and it's on such a dim setting that most people will have a difficulty reading it. It doesn't bother me. It does not affect my sleep. I've measured this and I know this to be true. But phones, TV, yeah, definitely bothers people. If you still want to be on your phone, well, don't do it in bed, but you want to watch TV right before you go to sleep, wear those silly blue blocking glasses. They'll help. Otherwise, if you are generally just amped up in the night, breathing drills will work. So anywhere where the inhale is lesser than the exhale. For example, the most common method is 4-second inhale, 7-second hold, 8-second exhale. You can spend 15-20 minutes sitting and doing this breathing and then going to bed. These are, and this is something I did for a while, and then I simplified it to just inhale and exhale. So that's my simplified meditation technique, and it works for me. But you have to figure out what works for you, and don't start with research. Start with this. Breathing is the key, because we want to tone down our sympathetic nervous system and up our parasympathetic nervous system, which is going to allow us to sleep. And the simplest way we control it is by a relaxed exhale. Amrita asks, I feel I've had a good week with diet and exercise, but made no progress. Should we start with calorie log? 1 week is too little time, Amrita. Keep measuring. Keep doing what you're doing. And see where the trends go. The calorie log has nothing to do with what you are asking. The calorie log or calorie counting for a week was more of a tool for you to find out where you are today. This is what I'm eating, not this is what I think I'm eating, this is what I eat on average. This is what I'm eating. And then 6 months later, you can take stock again. That's something we measure again. Like while we do weekly measurements and monthly measurements or blood work 3 months or 6 months, every 6 months, do the 1 week calorie counting again. See how your habits have changed. Okay, so that's not why I'm recommending a calorie counting, Amrita, to answer your question.
Arvind, how do we figure out if the craving is induced by stress or poor nutrition, or maybe a combo of both? Is it that the food log is going to help you, or the details that you log and doing a postmortem, is that going to help you? Or
yeah, that's exactly how, Krishna Kumar, right?
Yeah,
that's exactly how. That's the whole point. You need to be cognizant of what you are doing to yourself, and the food log will help, but it's not possible to keep a food log, or well, for most of us, it just gets too tedious to keep a food log 52 weeks of the year. So yeah, it's important for you to realize where you're going out of whack. Or today, I had a work meeting and it was stressful. I had to fire 7 people, and I'm just feeling, bad. And so I ate ice cream. Yeah, understanding all of this will help. And then that's why expect things to derail you. So next time you have a stressful work day, what are you going to do different this time? And it's not that I'm going to go shut myself down and no ice cream. It can be the other 6 days of this week. I'm going to be great, and I'm going to give in to this stressful day today and come up with a better plan than next time. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan, but have a better plan than the previous time.
That's sure. Thanks, Arvind.
Nothing. Nishta, I don't see a question. So you want to ask me a question?
Yeah, how do I go about? I'm stuck at my weight from last 2 months. Like in the 4 months, I lost 10 kilos. And then from past 2 months, it's like not even a 500 grams I'm losing.
Got it.
Thankfully, I haven't gained any, but yeah, I'm not losing any.
So it's not recommended to constantly be on a fat loss goal, which is why I broke it down into weeks. So let's say you're done with 2 4-week chunks. You are in your maintenance chunk now. So it'll allow you some mental space as well, bandwidth as well, to say, I don't need to be there. So measure something else. So you can measure your measurements once in 2 weeks, whereas previously you're probably doing it once a week. And you can now try to play around a little bit. Oh, can I have whatever your favorite, food is? Can I have a little bit more of it? And I'm still more or less thereabouts. And don't worry about putting on 1 kilo. As long as it's, it's all part of the plan. It will go up, and then you try your next 4-week chunk. Okay, so give it time. And yeah, it's important that you don't, like, you are at the end of a fat loss phase. 2 months, 10 kilos, great. Now go back to that, if you can remember that example. Yeah. And then 2 months of stalling. I understand. Maintenance is a great thing. Go back to the 2 examples we saw earlier today. You lost, you're maintaining. It's okay if you put on some. Then the next spurt, you will lose more. Okay, and it's important to hover around here rather than going up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay.
Thank you, coach.
Bharat, you ready? Bharat,
But
type it to me.
Arvind, as a follow-up to the previous question,
Yes.
so what should one do differently when you're just hovering around the same place because it is not yielding any results? Right? You have to do something more than what you've
Not
done.
something more, something different.
Something different. Okay.
So all the things I spoke about today, that's my answer.
I mean, what I meant was once you have already attained a certain level of weight loss and now you're installing on maintenance phase and you want to slightly cut down even further, then it becomes a question of you'll have to do something different which you have not done prior.
Yeah. That's and you want to know what to do different?
I mean, how do you approach that second phase? Because then things will change.
It probably requires you to be stricter, or it requires you to find a different activity, something you suck at, let's say swimming and walking 6 days a week. Yeah, it's a very specific answer. I don't know how to answer that question, honestly. Fat loss phases are the easiest phases, folks. Okay, you simply need to attack with everything you have. If you're not able to find a path to losing weight, there's 2 reasons generally. One, you're not doing enough. Okay, and this does not mean eating too little. Eating less and working out more is not what I mean. Eating better and training smarter is what I mean. You're not doing either of those. Otherwise, you're not sleeping enough or you're not handling your stress well. It is just these 4 things. So you need to overdo your compliance on these 4 things. That's pretty much what it is. And sometimes maybe your goal is wrong. Should you be looking at fat loss? And that's for you to decide. And your timeline is wrong. When I say a goal is wrong, you might be like, I want to lose 5 kilos in 1 month because I lost 5 kilos in 1 month last time around. Well, last time around there was 5 more kilos to lose. Now you're lesser and lesser. So yeah, not the best answer, but that's the answer I have. I'm going to address Mandodri's question. Will IF help? And is it okay to try it when we train in the morning? Will IF help with what, Mandodri?
With maintenance, coach. Once we lose a particular amount of weight or reach our goal,
Yeah.
and then we are at the maintenance level, and then we tend to put on a kilo or two, and then going back to the 100% just doesn't help us get below what we reach.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if that helps, because it automatically says that we consume less because we cut down the breakfast.
Yeah.
If we just stick with lunch and dinner and still follow the same healthy diet or whatever we followed.
Yeah.
So will that help us reach a better goal?
What's a better goal?
So like 2 years back when I did the D9, I came down from 60 to 56. Okay. So then now I am back at 59. So when I'm at the proper 100%, I come down to 56 again. But then I go back to 58, 59.
Yep.
But I'm not going anywhere below 56.
Yep.
Whereas my this waist height ratio, I require to be 54, 55. But I'm not able to reach. I'm not able to go anywhere beyond that.
Your weight and your waist are different, Mandodari.
No, not the weight. The height and waist ratio.
Yeah. No, you're telling me your weight numbers and then you're telling waist. So anyway, Mandodari, I'm just going to answer the question. It's getting more and more convoluted and the details aren't helping. So if you need to, email me.
Okay.
IF. Will it help? Find out for yourself. Okay. The 80% will keep changing. Intermittent fasting is a tool. Okay. It's a tool that we will use for some amount of time. And like every tool, it's not a tool you will use all the time. So do try it out for 1 month or 2 months or 80% of the time. So 5 days of the week you might do intermittent fasting and 2 days of the week you might not. And you'll only know if it will work if you track it. So do that. Find out what works for you. So Raj and I have been intermittent fasting for the better part of 12 years, more or less. Not every day, not every month, not 80% every month or anything like that. We change it based on our training plan, based on how we are doing, but it is a constant tool in our toolbox. So for example, there's probably a few weeks of the year where I don't fast. Okay, it might be 1 week here and 1 week there, but I generally like to fast. I love how I feel when I fast as opposed to eating breakfast. But I know this because I've found out for myself. So do try it out and see how it goes.
So it's okay to do try it when we train in the morning. So we have a good workout.
Some days no.
Okay.
So you can have a protein shake, just whey and water some days after training, and some days it's okay to not have anything after training. But generally, the more strength or high intensity work you do, it might not be a good idea to constantly do it. You can try the other way around though. Skip dinner, have breakfast and lunch. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. Much harder, but the protocol is the same.
All right. Okay, coach.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right. Finally, Bharat put on a few kilos during lockdown, and then waist height ratio, my 80%. Okay. Bharat, this is an I question. Just email it to me. But yes, quick answer is yes. But because you are trying to cram it here, you can just email it to me and I can tell you the longer one. I'm going to stop recording, folks. Thanks for joining. But you can hang around. We'll answer more questions, but I'm just going to stop this recording here.